Thank you, Dave. TSN is the exclusive broadcaster of the Canadian Football League and proud home of the 2008 Grey Cup. Well, week 4 kicks off with two of the most improved teams in the Canadian Football League under ideal conditions at McMahon. Temperature a comfortable 22, although that wind might play some tricks for the kickers in this game. Charlie Taff on the sidelines for the Tiger Cats. Doesn't feel like they're 1-2 and still wondering how that one got away last week against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. While on the other sideline, John Huffnagel Stampeders 2-1, coming off their first win outside of Alberta in a couple of seasons.
Very different, difficult loss for the Hamilton Tiger Cats a week ago versus Saskatchewan. They will have to fight through that emotional low early in the season to face what is becoming a very good football team here in Calgary in a hurry.
Teams split a pair of meetings last year. Calgary won the season opener 37-9 at home. The Ticats answered back with a win on home turf against the Stampeders last September, 24-20, a game that saw an injury to Henry Burris. Sandro DeAngelis getting set to tee things up. And Trey Smith, who leads the Canadian Football League in all-purpose yards, has dropped deep along with Pat Woodcock.
32 are back for Hamilton.
Smith awaits, and already that wind is playing a little havoc with our start.
We'll see a lot of Trey Smith tonight with Jesse Lumsden out of the lineup. Trey Smith and Terry Colley will get the tailback spot for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and they'll share that tonight.
And we may need a holder. So we'll get some help from Brandon Smith. Usually you see the wind coming out of the west here, but it is blowing in the opposite direction to start the night. And finally underway. And it will be Trey Smith, short kick, across the 35. And Trey Smith to the 40-yard line. Good field position for the Tiger Cats after the 17-yard return. Casey Printers with the wind at his back to start this game.
Casey Printers starts at quarterback. Jesse Lumsden not in the lineup. He was leading rusher coming into week 4, so we will see Trey Smith in the receiving corps. One newcomer, Priche Rodriguez, will play outside. A converted basketball player from Auburn in his first game in the Canadian Football League. Offensive line with Peter Diakowski at guard.
Have to go with the non-import at guard instead of Marco Kavka because of the Lumsden injury. Problem with the first shotgun snap. And Printers is dropped back inside the 30-yard line. Charleston Hughes will get credit for the sack.
Certainly not the start that the Hamilton Tiger Cats want, to come in on the road after that emotional loss a week ago and have one go right through the legs of Casey Printers. That snap a little bit low from Marwin Haight.
9th sack of the year registered by the Stampeders. So a loss of 10, 2nd and 20. Printers with a roll to the right side and a completion. And that's Priche Rodriguez, the newcomer, at 6'5". Not going very far. But again, one of the upgrades to the Hamilton attack is the size of their receivers this season.
Yeah, 6'5" on the outside there. You have Scott Mitchell at 6'3". Rodriguez, a converted basketball player, went to Auburn's, only had a couple of years of football experience. The coaching staff wanted to try and get him in as soon as they could, but he had to take some time learning the game and the playbook.
Nick Setta booms the punt. Marcus Howell lets it go, and it will bounce into the end zone. And this one going right to the end line and will be the single point. What a blast by Nick Setta with the wind at his back. And the Tiger Cats strike first after a 77-yard punt, and Henry Burris leads the Calgary offense onto the field.
Completing 70% of his passes, has thrown 6 touchdowns and just 3 interceptions on the season so far. Henry Burris looks like he's in fine form so far in 2008. Joffrey Reynolds in the tailback position behind him. 5.8-yard average for Reynolds. There's the receiving corps. Brett Ralph on the outside, and the go-to guy has been Kenyon Rambo, and an offensive line with two rookies, Jesse Newman and Dimitri Sumpas.
Both teams have been slow starters through the first 3 weeks of the campaign. That's a focus for Calgary, and here's Burris in trouble and somehow escapes. Still in trouble, and finally he is dropped. Ray Marius, the Will linebacker, finally brings Burris down, so a sack for the Hamilton defense on the first offensive play.
Ray Marius gets after. You can see the strength of Henry Burris. Marius is coming from the right side of your screen. As the ball is snapped, there's pressure immediately from the outside. Not McKay Losher gets first pressure. That's the guy who flushes Henry Burris, and Marius will get the stat.
So 2nd and 16, Ticats with 3 down defensive linemen, and here is Burris, and he just missed Brett Ralph, who got in behind coverage, and Ralph, who has the longest play from scrimmage for the Stampeders this year, a 65-yard touchdown, just missed.
Yeah, that's one thing with the talented receiving core that the Calgary Stampeders have. A little bit surprising that Brett Ralph coming in was leading this receiving core in yards per catch, just under 20 yards. He's caught a couple of those long ones early in the season, and Henry Burris just misses them. Both offenses, Chris, starting with negative plays, negative yardage in their first play.
And Trey Smith back to accept the punt of Burke Dales. Smith, number 4 in the league in punt returns so far. Good kick into the wind. Fielded by Smith, and he has trouble with it. It's still on the carpet, and the Stampeders look like they're on it. It is Calgary football when we come back. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, the Canadian how-to people.
Trey Smith just bobbles. It looked like he caught it initially and then just didn't secure the football before Brandon Browner got down there and distracted him. He takes his eyes off the ball there, and there's 27 for the Calgary Stampeders. One of the first guys down on every punt for Calgary in every game. He's one of those special teams demons. He ends up with the fumble recovery, but he distracted Trey Smith enough.
Yeah, the gunner had first contact, ended up with the ball, and Calgary now takes over. And Henry Burris dumps it off. Joffrey Reynolds with the catch. And he'll be dragged down by the middle linebacker, Zeke Moreno.
Calgary Stampeders last year and the beginning of this year have had their issues in the turnover, the giveaway, takeaway category. Last year, a -20, worst in the league. This year, in all 3 games, Calgary has been on the wrong side. They've been minus in all 3. They're up 1 turnover early in this game, a good sign for the Stamps.
Ticats now -5 on the year in that category. 6 for Reynolds. So 2nd and 4. And Burris, a quick hitter for a first down to the 12-yard line. And there's Nick Lewis with another catch.
Defensively for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Terrence Patrick moves inside, the former Calgary Stampeder, and Charlton Keith will play at the rush end position. Ray Marius putting together a very good season at linebacker, played very well last week versus Saskatchewan. And Ryan Clasper getting a chance to play free safety with Dylan Barker out due to injury on the 9 game, their first-round draft pick.
Ticats also without Daryl Adams, the defensive tackle, who has 3 sacks. They swing it out, and here's Reynolds. Joffrey Reynolds hit behind the line of scrimmage, and a little extra effort to get back to the original line.
This is a very big series here for early on in this game for that Ticat defense. They've been in much improved group in 2008. Not McKay Losher helps them up front. And they're probably their biggest improvement has been Markeith Knowlton at the linebacker. And their 2 halfbacks, Chris Thompson and Rontarius Robinson.
Good play there by the corner, Joaquin Bradley, who impressed us with that rundown of Weston Dressler last week. That ball is dropped incomplete on 2nd and 11. And after the Trey Smith fumble, the Calgary Stampeders will have to settle for a field goal attempt as Demetrius Summers drops the ball.
Well, it looked like the play was set up well, and it looked like the Calgary Stampeders had the blocking set up the way they want. They had Nick Lewis at the top, and Joffrey Reynolds had his man underneath. The ball just put on the turf. Summers caught that football. He had a lot of running room.
Summers with a little more security after the release of the other running back, Ken Simonton, this week. Played well in Montreal, but an early drop here. And here's Sandy DeAngelis to put it through. Now 7 for 10 on the season in the field goal department. Calgary with an early lead. Welcome back to McMahon Stadium, where Jermaine Franklin is patrolling the sidelines.
Juwan Armour was perfectly clear. He said, I wanted Jesse. And he also went on to say he was personally disappointed that Jesse Lumsden, the top running back in the league, would not be playing in tonight's game. He said that, unfortunately, defenses want to test themselves against the best. That won't happen tonight, but they still have to remain aggressive because the combination of Smith and Colley will keep their hands full.
Former teammates, Juwan Armour moving over from Hamilton to Calgary and moving across into the middle linebacker for the second straight week. Usually at the outside will linebacker post. Here's Trey Smith. Just across the 35. And the second offensive possession for Casey Printers and the Tiger Cats.
Well, the one play that we will see, whether it's Jesse Lumsden, it won't be this game, it'll be Trey Smith 32, is this zone read where Printers will read the defensive end. When Trey Smith hits the line, now if that defensive end crashes down, Printers fakes it to Trey Smith, keeps it around the corner. If the defensive end stays high, or the contained man, could be a linebacker, then the ball is given to Trey Smith and he stays wide. Both teams will run that play. Printers loves it.
Trey Smith off the weak side and almost broke the tackle, but there is Juwan Armour, making sure Smith couldn't bust through. Penalty marker on the play. Armour leading the Stampeders in tackles with his 15th on that play.
That play we'll see from both teams, that zone read play where the quarterback rides a dive. It works real well with quarterbacks who can run the football, and we have two tremendous running quarterbacks in this game in Casey Printers and, of course, Henry Burris.
Illegal formation. Hamilton, number 67. Penalties decline. Second down.
I'll show you in recent games how Casey Printers uses this. What he'll do is he looks at the contained man, which in this case against Toronto was Michael O'Shea, and reads O'Shea. If O'Shea comes up the field, he gives it up the field. He'll give it to Jesse Lumsden. If he crashes down, which he does on this case, he keeps it to the outside.
Stampeders decline the penalty, so it's 2nd and 8. Here comes pressure from Mike Labinjo, and Printers is down way back at the 15-yard line.
The offensive line for the Ticats on this play don't give Casey Printers a chance because Labinjo just shoots the gap and George Hudson can't get there. Labinjo's right at the top of your screen right here. He's going to come upfield and shoot the gap and slide protect from the offensive line, meaning they're all sliding to their right. You can see all the problems that George Hudson has with Mike Labinjo.
Brandon Smith finished him off. There's another big punt by Seta with the wind. Fielded over his shoulder by Marcus Howell. Up to the 30-yard line, and Ray Marius and Michael Botterill get him there. That's a 72-yard Seta kick. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by the 2008 GMC Sierra. Professional grade.
Hamilton Tiger Cats have really weathered an early storm here. I mean, considering they've given up a couple of sacks, they've had problems with fumbles, a fumble in the kicking game. They're only down by 3 early in this game. Could be worse.
Yeah, Charlie Taft's offense minus 26 yards so far. So Casey Printers is on the phone, and Henry Burris back to work. And here's Reynolds for the cutback, and he's brought down. Good tackle by the former Stampeder, Terrence Patrick.
Well, Kenyon Rambo has really emerged as one of the favorite targets for Henry Burris early in this season. A couple things about that. Rambo in his last 14 games, going back to last year, has 14 touchdowns. So he just has the confidence of his quarterback. And what's different about it is most teams, the number one receiver is an inside guy.
This used to be the slot machines with Copeland and Lewis dominating the offense. 2nd and 8. And there's Kenyon Rambo on cue with the first down catch up near the 50.
Across the middle for Kenyon Rambo, and that's the other thing that Henry Burris loves about him, is that he's confident in the fact that if he throws it over the middle, Kenyon Rambo is tough enough to be able to come down with that football and take a hit.
Guy that has stretched the field, Lawrence Gordon brought him down there, but it is a first down, a 16-yard pickup for Rambo, his 21st catch on the year. Those slots have combined for 22. There's that zone read play and a fake, and now Nick Lewis up across the 50-yard line and into Hamilton territory.
How about the block there from Jermaine Copeland? Saw Nick Lewis come out into the flat on that zone read play. And here's that thing. I told you both quarterbacks will run it where they ride that dive, and this time Burris throws it to the outside. Watch here comes the crackback block right there from Jermaine Copeland. Watch this. And right there knocks down the defender.
Markeith Knowlton took the brunt. Usually it's Lewis with the crackback blocks, and this time his buddy Copeland supplied one. There's Burris stepping up, cutting it. Rambo again with a catch at the 22-yard line.
Boy, nice route running there from Kenyon Rambo. He runs what's called a post corner. He's going to go down one-on-one on Lawrence Gordon. Post move and then back to the corner. And you can see Lawrence Gordon gets all turned around and just barely recovers. That ball thrown a little more inside. Rambo scores.
Pickup of 26. Rambo came into the game tied with Kerry Watkins for the lead in catches on the season. 1st and 10. Burris with time, drops it off to Reynolds on the backfield. And he is down to the 14. Well, we've seen Kenyon Rambo in action, and Henry Burris loves yet another dangerous weapon in his attack.
He's really starting to shine now, and we put him at our prime position in that boundary receiver position because in that short side, it's where the heat is all the time, especially on the defensive backs and stuff like that. So you always want to have your playmakers in positions to make plays all the time, and he's been given that opportunity, and he's responded in the fashion that we thought he would.
2nd and 8, toss, Joffrey Reynolds to the goal line, touchdown! Joffrey Reynolds takes the pitch and has his 3rd touchdown of the season.
Joffrey Reynolds, by alignment, gives himself a chance on this play. He's way deeper than he normally would line up, so he can get that bubble and get outside of not McKay Losher. And then it's just a foot race, and he wins it to the corner of the end zone.
Came into this game number 2 in CFL rushing behind Jesse Lumsden. DeAngelis adds the extra point, and Calgary up early here at McMahon. Six-play, 78-yard touchdown drive by the Stamps, capped by a 14-yard Joffrey Reynolds run.
Boy, it was well played. He was deep in that backfield to allow him lots of options after he got the pitch from Henry Burris, his 3rd touchdown of the season.
So the slow starting Tiger Cats in a 9-point hole here with 4.5 minutes remaining in the opening quarter, and Hamilton with the wind at their back. And a flag down as Trey Smith, another penalty marker. Couple of different penalties on that kick return. While they sort it out, we should get another chance to check the Reynolds touchdown.
that giveaway. When the tailback, in this case Joffrey Reynolds, is that deep in the backfield, he can now take that and get to the outside. He's about 8 yards, 9 yards behind Henry Burris. A little fake going one direction, and then the pitch, the outside. McKay Losher came down about a step and a half, and that's all it takes to get to the corner for the tailback. Joffrey Reynolds has the option to cut back if the contain is there, but because it wasn't, he just took off to the corner.
Reynolds over 5,000 yards in his Calgary Stampeder career. Just needed 1 yard coming into this game. Here in his 5th season as the featured back. There was a holding penalty on the kick return team, so the Ticats have been going backwards in this first quarter. Now looking deep and overthrowing Scott Mitchell downfield.
Well, let's take a look at the Calgary Stampeder defense. Up front, a couple sacks from Howard Hodges. Third start for Charleston Hughes on the outside. In the linebacking core, LaMarcus Rowell will be playing as a substitute for Juwan Armour in the middle occasionally here tonight. And then in the secondary, the same group that's played all 3 games. There's Brandon Brown, who's already got that 1 fumble on the special teams.
2nd and 10. Printers on a roll, now looks downfield, jump ball, and Calvin Bannister, closest man to it in coverage for Calgary, and it's another 2 and out for the Ticats, who haven't had any traction in this opening quarter.
No, they haven't, and that's the second time Mike Labinjo from the top of your screen is coming off number 42. Sees inside move and then has the speed to spin out of it and cause some problems as he starts to chase down Casey Printers, who had to get out of the pocket because of him.
3rd consecutive 2 and out. Nick Setta booms another. Marcus Howell back inside his 25. And brought down on a great coverage downfield. Terrific play by Jason Ned, a reserve defensive back. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by Sport Check. When you're in the zone, time almost stands still. Getting into the zone begins with Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport. Great tackle downfield by Jason Ned, and Marcus Howell shaken up on that return after a 70-yard set-up punt, and that's been the only silver lining for the Tiger Cats so far in this game.
Well, he's going to have the great average. Marcus Howell injured on the play, and Howell's really their Mr. Everything, Mr. Versatility. He's a guy who played backup defensive back. He can play receiver for you. He plays safety. He returns kicks. He covers kicks. Real utility player for the Calgary Stampeders.
Winnipeg native makes his way to the sidelines. Backup corner. And how about Nick Setta? His average through 3 punts is 73 yards. So somebody's fattening up his averages, but the Ticats need a lot more than that. Calgary starts at their 24. And Summers met in the backfield. There's Ray Marius with another good defensive play.
Yeah, I mentioned that Ray Marius last week versus Saskatchewan really putting together a good game last week. He's putting together a good season. He's going to come from over on the outside. And he fills that hole in a hurry. Not McKay Losher goes out and contain, and that's his job, to step up in the middle of the hole. Really nowhere to go for the Calgary Stampeders there.
Bruce comes out in passing downs. Sandy Beveridge in, a fake one way, and they'll screen it to Reynolds. And Reynolds taken down just beyond the line of scrimmage. So a good defensive series for the Tiger Cats and a 2 and out for Calgary.
Well, it should be decent field position for the Hamilton Tiger Cats as well. They really haven't established anything offensively. Hamilton, all kinds of problems controlling John Huffnagel's defensive line right now, and in particular Mike Labinjo.
Well, I knew Labinjo would be fired up when he told me yesterday in his bedroom at home he had an autographed poster of Matt Dunnigan. So you know he's always got his game face on. Dale's kick, and Trey Smith lets that one hit the carpet. That'll be no yards, and Smith up over the 50-yard line. So good field position with 2:04 remaining, but no, another fumble. Second fumble, but wait a minute, there was a no yards call on the play. So Smith's got to find the handle, but gets bailed out by the penalty marker.
Well, Trey Smith takes a gamble of grabbing it on the bounce.
No yards. Calgary number 37. 5-yard penalty. First down.
But when you take that gamble, you know you're going to get the no yards call. A couple of Stampeders inside that 5-yard zone.
That's the veteran Mark Kalist within a couple of yards of Trey Smith.
So basically a freebie, but the ball definitely comes out. And he has had problems early in this game with the handle on the football. He fumbled that early punt.
Randy Chevrier with the forced fumble that might have been. So the Ticats try to kick it in gear, starting at their own 47. And trouble on handoff between Smith and Printers.
Oh boy, that's the zone read again that we drew up for you. And
you got to be on the same page for the zone read.
Yeah, one's reading one page, the other page, because Printers is going to ride it in the stomach of Trey Smith as he gets the football here. Watch him how he rides it for a second, maybe a little bit high in the shoulder pad area, but it's too long, and Trey Smith tries to grab at it and pulls it in and ends up on the ground. They're lucky to get it back.
Charleston Hughes in the neighborhood nearly vacuumed it up for the Stamps. Loss of 1 as Hamilton keeps going backwards. There's a completion short of the first down. Tony Miles with the catch. Let's see where they give him forward progress right at midfield, and they will be short by 2.
You got to wonder about Trey Smith, Chris. He comes in, he gets a chance to start with Jesse Lumsden out of the lineup. You know he's hyped up, and early in this game he is just kicking it around. The football not his friend in the first quarter. A couple of fumbles, the timing off on the read play from Casey Printers, and he's just got to settle down a little bit.
And he had been doing just about everything right until this start. Marcus Howell okay, so he awaits another punt, and Seta angling this, but it's going to reach the end zone anyway. Howell will take it to the back line, and Nick Seta's got another point, another long punt, and that's all the Ticats have to show for this opening quarter. Well, 62 yards, so Seta took something off that one.
Yeah, he's got that 70-yard average, but that one a mistake, because where he was on the field, the Hamilton Ticats wanted that football out of bounds as close to the goal line as they could get it. And I know looked like Nick Seta tried to sky that one, hoping that Howell would take it, but he's a smart returner. Anything close inside that 10-yard line, he's going to let it go. They'd rather give up the single point and get the field position.
I guess the only good news for Charlie Taft so far is it's just an 8-point game. It feels worse than that.
Yeah, it probably should be.
First attempt, the Calgary 35.
So the Stamps take over at their own 35 as the clock drains on this opening quarter. There's Reynolds. And Ryan Glasper filled the hole in a hurry. There's that safety moving up to meet Reynolds. There is a penalty marker on the play.
Well, it's great if you can get your free safety in Ryan Glasper to come up that quickly.
Somebody moved up too quickly, though, and Hamilton offside.
Offside. Hamilton number 94. 5-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
That's Terrence Patrick.
Calgary will take first down repeated and 5 to go. And I was going to mention, if Ryan Glasper continues to come down quickly like that on the run, look for Henry Burris as this game goes on to play action to Joffrey Reynolds and try and throw it right down the middle.
Ticats last in penalty yards through the opening 3 weeks. Should be the final play of the quarter. And that pass incomplete. Marius in coverage against Jermaine Copeland. So the Stampeders dominate the opening 15 minutes here at McMahon. First quarter stats brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
A disastrous first half offensively for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. No way to sugarcoat that one. Minus 18 net yards for Hamilton. They're lucky to just be down by 8 at this point in the football game.
That was the wind at their back as well. Maybe we should use red ink for that minus 18. But, I mean, we know Jesse Lumsden's good, but they're not missing him that bad, are they? Or maybe they are.
No, but it looks like Trey Smith has some butterflies. He looks like he's a little bit nervous. He has problems handling the football, not just on offense, but on special teams. But good news for the Ticats. It's early in the game, and they're only down by 8 points. So in some ways, they have weathered what was a real ugly first quarter offensively.
So it's 2nd and 5. Is caught by Brett Ralph. Chris Thompson with the tackle, and it'll be close to a first down.
I think his forward progress will get him that first down yardage, and they don't even have to measure it. He did get it. He was pushed back after the hit, but the receiver or running back, in this case a receiver, will get the forward progress.
Brett Ralph with his 11th catch of the season. The top Canadian receiver so far through 3 weeks, Danny Damerville with Brett Ralph second. Woodcock third. And here's Jeffrey Reynolds, second level, and into Hamilton territory, crashing down to the 47.
Big block there by Jeff Pilon, who came down on Ray Marius, and he's just going to take him right out of position. Pilon, number 64, right there in your screen. Watch how he just comes down on number 44, Ray Marius. Gets inside, and then he just pushes him right down into the middle. That opens up the lane for Joffrey Reynolds.
17 for Reynolds. We mentioned he has eclipsed 5,000 yards in his career. He is 6th on the all-time Stampeder list. 1st and 10 Calgary. Short drop, completion, Nick Lewis. Brought down at the 38-yard line. Markeith Knowlton and Chris Thompson are there.
You know, you tell you the pregame show, the panel, guys in Toronto were talking about Henry Burris and how he is so much stronger this year. He changed his training regime in the off season, and in fact, I got some details on just how strong he is. Just get this, as a quarterback, Henry Burris deadlifts, and what a deadlift is with the barbell on the ground, you just basically bend your knees, keep your back straight, and lift the bar straight up. It's all about leg power. He deadlifts well over 400 pounds. In fact, Henry Burris was lifting more weight than some of his offensive linemen. Wow. He bench presses 225 pounds 18 times repetition. That's how much stronger he has become. We've seen examples of how he has translated that, as Matt Dunnigan mentioned in the pregame show, into success on the field early.
Who's he think he is, Dunnigan? 2nd and a yard. I'm not sure. Good surge there by the Tiger Cat defensive line, trying to deny Reynolds a first down.
You know, one of the reasons, too, you have to believe that Henry Burris did get himself stronger was he was tired, he said, of getting knocked off the football easily and knocked down too easily. So that was one reason. But the guys on the panel also mentioned the youth on the offensive line with Jesse Newman and Demetrius Supas. And first down for Calgary. A couple of real young first-round draft picks this year that you don't normally see starting in year one, but get those young guys up there. The quarterback's got to be able to move around and be strong enough to take some hits. They will make a few mistakes.
Well, they got enough of a push for the first down. Fresh set of downs at the 37 of Hamilton. And over the middle, Jermaine Copeland. A little behind him, but it slipped through the fingertips, and Copeland knows he should have had it.
Oh, yeah, Jermaine Copeland catches that. I mean, that's very catchable football. It was slightly behind him off his back shoulder, but quick read and delivery from Burris. Basically just a real quick fake and turn and just throw it over the linebacking core and Markeith Colton and in front of the defensive secondary and Chris Thompson. Play was executed well except for the last element, the catch.
So 2nd and 10. Ticats trying to dig in. Time for Burris. Through the fingertips of Kenyon Rambo. Back-to-back drops. And we haven't seen much of that so far this season for this Calgary offense.
We've seen it in this game, though. Demetrius Summers, what was a big play early in the first quarter. Jermaine Copeland, always sure-handed. And Kenyon Rambo, 21 catches to this point in the season. He can't believe he let that one go through his hands. We're showing a little bit of frustration because he should be frustrated. Those are drops, and we're going to record all game long the drops for these quarterbacks.
I think that 4 or 5 incompletions for Burris, and 3 of them were should have been. So Henry's on target. And now Sandro DeAngelis on to attempt a 40-yarder. And Sandro puts it through, expanding the lead. It's now 13-2 Stampeders. CFL on TSN action continues tomorrow with Wendy's Friday Night Football. The Blue Bombers, looking for their first win, travel to Vancouver to meet the BC Lions. Live coverage begins at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 on the West Coast. Available on TSN HD.
We knew Charlie Taff wanted to rotate his running backs in Terry Colley and Trey Smith here in this game. Both on the field right now together.
This is a different offensive set. And a flag down. Terry Colley off the left side. He's punished.
Well, that's an offensive set you won't see very often. 3 offensive linemen standing in front of Casey Printers. You usually see 5, obviously.
And there is a marker down. Is it an illegal formation?
They're trying to count them up right now. You have to have your 5 offensive linemen on the line and 2 receivers. They did the math, and
there's no infraction on the play. 65
was okay.
is lined up legally.
But it was a different formation than even the officials. Look at this, 1, 2, 3 offensive linemen in front of Casey Printers. 1 offensive lineman up to the top here. And then you got Trey Smith as a receiver in the backfield one side, Terry Colley beside Casey Printers. So very different formation by the Ticats.
5 for Colley, 2nd and 5. Printers stands in. Chris Bauman, the catch, close to the 45, drilled back. Bauman playing in his first game of the year last week, and he was terrific with 8 catches for 90 yards, a team best and a personal best for the second-year man from Brandon. And the spot is the 45, which is going to require a measurement.
Well, I mentioned earlier, Appreciate Rodriguez was a newcomer on the wideout position, and I asked Charlie Taff about him. He said, yeah, he's trying to learn football, only a couple years of experience. And Chris Bauman coming back last week in his first game is still young as well, just in his second year. You see he got the first down yardage. And he said that the coaching staff wanted to get Rodriguez out with Bauman last week. And he said, I don't know, Bauman's first game, he's just a second-year guy. Rodriguez, his first game ever in the CFL. Do we want 2 on the field at once? So they brought Bauman on, and they said, we'll wait 1 more game for Appreciate Rodriguez.
Well, they had 2 first-timers in game 1, Eddie Cohen and Scott Mitchell, and both had that deer-in-the-headlights look, and they didn't want to replicate that. In week 3, here's Casey Printers, back to Bauman, another catch. Dwight Anderson's former Ticat rides him out and draws a flag, and that'll move it 15 yards further. So they go to Bauman to get the offense going for the Tiger Cats. Took 19 minutes for the first down for Casey Printers and the Tabbies.
Well, they've tried to fix it with the going to the controlled short passing game. Another
Major
quick
foul,
throw.
face mask. Calgary number 33. 15-yard penalty at the end of play. First down.
Dwight Anderson just ripped the helmet right off of Chris Bauman. as he gets run out of bounds, and he's 2 steps out of bounds. You can see the helmet go to the ground, and Bauman doesn't fight back, just goes to find his helmet. He needs that.
So this is the furthest Hamilton's moved down the field after what turns out to be a 22-yard play. First down, Tiger Cats at the Calgary 43. And Trey Smith straight up the middle into the secondary and then drilled back by Brandon Browner, the corner. That's a similar play that he popped 75 yards, week 1 against Montreal.
There's Casey Printers. This is that read play I was talking about. You're going to see Trey Smith go right in here. Now, Trey Smith gets it in his stomach right here. Look at Printers. What he's doing is reading the outside. If you get that crash down look from the outside, he'll keep it and go with the ball wide. If not, he gives it to Trey Smith, who picks up good yards.
12 yards, 3rd consecutive. Hamilton first down, and now Cawley, the lone tailback, 4 receivers, and a bad snap has Printers in trouble. Is that a loose ball fumble? I believe it is. It is a fumble, and Dwayne Carpenter, the blitzing linebacker, comes up with it as Casey Printers lost the handle under duress.
Well, I think that Charlie Taft may want to take another look at this and to see whether or not Casey Printers' arm was going forward, but I don't think it was. I think he lost the handle of the football as he was trying to get it up over his shoulder. Here's a look at it. He loses it going upwards, not when his arm is going forwards, and that was almost caught as an interception anyway, but Dwayne Carpenter, I believe, will get a fumble recovery here.
Challenge flag has been thrown by Taft.
A challengeable play. This is a play that is reviewable either way, whether or not it's ruled a fumble or an incomplete pass. And it just looked like to me that Printer's arm was going up.
Ruling on the field that the ball was fumbled.
Well, I think he's got to throw the challenge even though those replays appear to disagree with the way Murray Clark's crew called it originally.
And it's ruled as a fumble and recovered by Calgary, so they have to have enough evidence from those looks to overturn that to make it incomplete. But it looked to me like Printer's arm was going up in the air when he lost the handle. Ball floats up in the air, then he moves the arm forward. Ball lost now, and then the arm comes forward. I think that play will stand for Calgary. Another good look at it.
Brandon Smith, the halfback, blitz again. We've seen him sent a couple of times by Chris Jones in this pressure package. Shannon James.
Oh, there's the best look right there, and you can see the ball comes out of Printer's hands. He didn't have time with Shannon James right in his face. Just trying to throw that ball away and save the loss, and he lost the handle.
Would be the second fumble by Printers on the season, unless...
After review, the quarterback lost control of the ball before his arm was moving forward. Ruling on the field stands, first down.
It is Calgary football. Second turnover of the game. And a loss of 29 and the ball for Printers in the offense when it looked like they were finally getting on track.
Yeah, the Ticats had finally a little offense and gave their defense a bit of a break until then.
So the Stamps take over on the Hamilton 50. And Henry Burris has Rambo down the sidelines. Kenyon Rambo dropped by Zeke Barreto. I thought Rambo came close to stepping out en route to the ball, but it is a 34-yard gain.
He runs a little out and up. He's been running this little down and then out to the sideline. Watch him go out and then around. He just blows right by Lawrence Gordon, who has that flat position. But because the ball is thrown in the hole in between the deep defender and the flat guy, the short defender and Lawrence Gordon, perfect throw and timing for Kenyon Rambo and Henry Burris.
Racking up the yards again. He had 8 catches, 136 yards in the opener against BC. The only 100-yard receiving game for Calgary so far. Henry Burris to the end zone. McLewis, did he get a foot down? Touchdown! Wow!
This is going to be close. Official was right on the spot. We'll have a great look for you You only need 1 foot, and the left foot touches just before the right in the back of the end zone. You can see right here, that little dark spot is where the first foot came down, the left foot of Nick Lewis. That's a touchdown.
And a spectacular one at that. That might have made the top 10 we had earlier.
There's Nick Lewis in the 3-receiver side. What he's going to do is come out, sneak pass, and go right down the middle from an outside in sort of route running position from Nick Lewis. Outside in, right through the post. Markeith Knowlton, the linebacker, was supposed to roll back to the middle. He didn't get deep enough. Great balance from Nick Lewis to keep that left foot in bounds.
A 20-2 Calgary lead, 10 of the points coming off Hamilton turnovers. And the hole gets even deeper. Trey Smith picks his way out across the 35.
Hope you get better, baby. Hope you get better,
Nick Lewis celebrates his second touchdown of the season.
When you're a kid playing catch in the playground or on the street, this is the catch you always practice, right? The one that goes right near the curb, and you got to catch it and keep 1 foot in front of that curb. Nick Lewis does a nice job of it and then goes and celebrates with the fans here at McMahon Stadium.
Little McMahon leap. And it's thumbs up for Henry Burris, who has his 7th touchdown pass of the season. Casey Printers has not thrown a touchdown pass this year. Looks downfield here for Scott Mitchell. Mitchell's got it. There is a penalty marker on the play as the big rookie receiver comes down with it at the Calgary 43.
And Casey Printers was hit after he threw the football by Mike
Major
Labinjo.
foul, roughing the passer. Calgary number 39, 15 yards at the end of the play, first down.
Oh, maybe it was Charleston Hughes. I thought it was Mike Labinjo. But at the end of that play, as Casey Printers is throwing it, and what touch on the ball to throw this on the full run. It was Charleston Hughes, and it's head-to-head contact, an automatic call, especially when it's the quarterback that gets hit.
31-yard play to Mitchell, who had a 43-yarder against the Argos. And here he is. Like Calvin Bannister mistimed his jump. First down at the Calgary 27. Printers steps up, and now Tony Miles working against his old teammate Juwan Armour, and now tossed down by Brandon Browner. First catch for Miles in the game. Sorry about that. Second for number 2 midway through the second quarter.
Because the Ticat receiving core is so young and inexperienced, the coaching staff have moved Tony Miles to an inside receiver position. For most of his career, he's been a wide receiver. And I asked him about the slot back spot. He feels comfortable in there, but the idea was just to get him closer to Casey Printers.
9 for Miles, 2nd and 1. Jeff Piercy first man through, and he'll have the first down at the 13-yard line. Mike Labinjo with the tackle, and the Tiger Cats trying to put a positive spin on what's been a disastrous opening half.
It really has, especially offensively, Chris. The problems they've had, they finally got a drive going. Printers fumbled. They had some turnover problems early in this first half, but a touchdown here can keep it close in a game that should be even worse than it is.
First and 10. Fake to Cully. Throw to the end zone. Incomplete. Intended for Mitchell.
That's a play that this team has had so much success with Jesse Lumsden, and you start to wonder if Casey Printers without Lumsden in the backfield is more reluctant to give it to the tailback rather than, you know, he rides that play on that zone read play we've drawn for you. He rides it, and he would always give that to Jesse if there was any chance for him to get that hole, and he's not. He's been pulling it in this game.
Printers with 1 touchdown pass as a Ticat, none in his last 5 games as a Ticat. One gun down inside the 5 to Tony Miles, and that should be a first down.
This is where they like to run that play, too, where they have, usually in the first 3 games, it was Jesse Lumsden, but this case it'll be either Colley or Smith. Is when they get down on the goal line.
You know, we mentioned that they don't have a touchdown pass, but they have been very efficient in the red zone inside the 20. 6 touchdowns in 8 appearances. All 6 are running touchdowns, of course, but if you're 75%, you're doing the right thing, even if none of them are through the air.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 of those touchdowns running from Casey Printers, 3 from Jesse Lumsden in the red zone. They do get the first down, so they'll have 3 cracks at it from just outside of 2 yards in. And it's that read play that they love to run. It's a chance for Printers to use his athletic ability. He can either give it to the running back in the hole or fake it and take it to the corner. And he also has the option to throw it.
The first and goal, Ticats. With Colley in the backfield, Colley the ball carrier, and he gets just 1.
You know, this play, and again, that's exactly what it was here, is predicated on the decision-making ability of the quarterback. And he has got to spy the outside guy. And watch Printers here right at the top of your screen. And Printers, he's got to look at the corner of the defense. And if he sees anybody crash, he's got to either pull it or give it to him. And I think he'd want that one back and pull it to the outside.
Mike Labinjo's having himself a half. Second and goal from about 1.5 yards out. They stack the right side, cut back Colley, close to the goal line, but stopped. This time it was Eddie Freeman who shut the door. And Labinjo in the pile as well.
Well, you're going to see how you get defensive linemen, Freeman and Hodge inside. They're going to crash down, and then they have to get the fill position from the linebackers, Dwayne Carpenter, and Eddie Freeman steps one side, then cuts back into the middle and makes a tackle, and it's Charlie Taff and a gamble move.
Well, he sent Nick Seta out, and Seta got halfway out, and he called him back. And he has to go for it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Third and goal from the 1. Piercy and Colley in the eye. Piercy in motion. Colley second man. Flag down, fumbled the ball, and Calgary up with it. But there is a penalty marker on the play. Did somebody move early? Did Calgary line up offside? Let's find out. Offside, Stampeders.
And the Ticats catch a break because Colley was hit in the backfield, fumbled the football, which the Stampeders
Offside,
recovered.
Calgary. Ball's placed at the 1 yard line. First down.
I didn't see any early movement, so the Stampeders must have lined up offside.
Well, we've seen this already once this year. If somebody's hand is on the green and not the gold paint, and there it is.
Yeah, you can see it.
That's not a yard.
Yeah, right there. You can see the hand is over the gold paint. Can't see what number,
but that's why it was offside. So it's first down. Printers trying to push it through. We've got another marker down. It is a touchdown pending the penalty. And did the Stamps line up offside again as Printers and Brandon Browner have words? And from the would've, could've, should've department, Printers doesn't fumble on the last series and they get a field goal, and Calgary doesn't score a touchdown. It's a 1-point game.
Yeah.
Offside. Calgary number 97. That penalty is declined. Touchdown Stamps.
Well, let's take a look. And again, once again, you can see right there the hand over the gold stripe. And I believe that's, did they call Eddie Freeman on it? And once that middle guy lines up, everyone lines up off of him. Either way, Printers got in the end zone there. They declined the penalty.
So it wasn't easy, but the Tiger Cats finally punch it in. Seta adds the extra point. And with just under 4 minutes to go, it's now 20-9 Stampeders. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN, brought to you by Sport Check. When you're in the zone, time almost stands still. Getting into the zone begins with Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport. So the Ticats scored their 9th running touchdown of the year. That's the first rush touchdown against the Calgary defense. Demetrius Summers on the return. And he'll step out at the 35-yard line.
You started to think that the Hamilton Tiger Cats were going to get some breaks. Casey Printers looks like he's been through a war already. We still have 3:35 left in the half, but the way this game has started for the Ticats, you thought they would start to get a bounce or two. That was a penalty-aided drive, but some nice throws and a couple of runs mixed in for Printers in the offense.
9 plays, 73 yards in 4:48 to give Hamilton some life. First and 10, Stampeders from the 35. And they swing it out. And this is Nick Lewis. And Lewis down the sidelines. Glasper finally drills him out. 27 for Nick Lewis.
Boy, did the Hamilton Tiger Cats ever need that touchdown drive. Starting right here, a nice throw down the field by Casey Printers, who also took a late hit. A couple of quick catches from Tony Miles, and then down on the goal line, this penalty on 3rd down by the Calgary Stampeders D-line, Eddie Freeman, and that gave the Ticats another chance. They punch it in, and did they need that?
First down, here's Burris. On the right side, Jermaine Copeland with the catch, brought down by Ray Marius. And they give us the 3-minute warning here at McMahon Stadium. The Stampeders up by 11. .251 remaining here in the first half at McMahon. Then we'll head back and see what the boys think about this first half. Schultz, Climby, Dunnigan, and Dave Randorf will weigh in on a first half that's been dominated by the Stamps as they threaten now to increase their lead. They've driven to the Hamilton 37-yard line. 1st and 10. 5 receivers out. And Burris has time to hook up once again with Kenyon Rambo. Late flag on the play.
Nick Lewis has been important on both these last 2 plays, one carrying the ball and one without it. See what the late flag is. But Lewis was the short crosser that drew the linebackers up so that Rambo could open up on that last
After the play, major foul, unnecessary roughness. Calgary number 67. We had 15 yards applied at the end of the play. First down.
John Hufnagel won't like that because the play was over when that penalty flag was thrown. There's the rookie, Dimitri Sumpas, the right guard.
First of all, let's show you Nick Lewis right in here and Rambo up on the top. And you're going to see Lewis come across underneath and draw the linebackers up. That allows Rambo open. Okay, that's how he got open. And then Sumpas with a penalty that's going to cost him. Those hit the pocketbook.
Game after the first down was gained. First down back at the 34. And another completion. Henry Burris has been on target this opening half, and Kenyon Rambo's been a favorite receiver.
Yeah, and so has Nick Lewis. A couple of plays here on this drive. He did that under, but here's the play. There's Lewis there. I want to show you a nice block made by Brett Ralph a couple plays ago. There's Brett Ralph up in front. And a play like this, you need one block. There's that block. Lewis breaks that arm tackle and away it goes. That's one play. He ran the over to help out on the first down from Rambo. That's another. So quietly, Lewis has become a factor in this drive.
So Brett Ralph, a good block. We saw Jermaine Copeland earlier. Lewis has made a habit of it in his career. Working together, pitch, left side. Joffrey Reynolds has a hole. And then stacked up at the 16. And he'll be short of the first down.
Good first half for Henry Burris, throwing the football, 16 of 21. He also had 3 catchable balls dropped in the first half. That gives him No, that increases his completion percentage if he gets those. So nice first half for Henry Burris.
Well, he talked about a complete game. They felt that this team has operated maybe well for a half last week, 3/4 of a game, but not a full 60 minutes. This has been thorough so far. Looks one way, then the other. Lewis got him. Touchdown. Geronimo has his second of the game.
And Nick Lewis, very important on 3 plays now in the drive, the biggest being the touchdown throw to your left. It's a deliberate throw behind as Burris fakes to the right side and then throws it to the back hip pocket of Nick Lewis. Ryan Glasper in coverage. Thought he was pushed off. No penalty, no flag, touchdown Calgary.
Nick Lewis has been a force in this opening half, and it's 27-9 for the Stampeders on the second touchdown reception by number 82.
Nick Lewis right here. He's going to end up in one-on-one coverage with Ryan Glasper, the safety, who's lined up low in pretty good position, but that's tough to defend because the timing of the throw does not allow the DB any time to react and come back. And if that ball is timed up perfectly, which it is, you just cannot defend it.
17 points in the last 3 Hamilton possessions. That a 6-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. Yesterday, when we talked to Henry Burris, we talked about Kenyon Rambo maybe stealing a little thunder, and he said, no, we're still the slot machines. Rambo's a great threat, but the slots are still super, and we've seen that. Lewis having his best game of 2008.
Yeah, and that was a good series for him in a lot of ways. I mean, as an under receiver after catching one deep in the backfield and making big yards after the catch. And then he became a decoy, and it worked, and then finished with that touchdown catch.
2 minutes for Hamilton to work with here. Pat Woodcock on the return, up to the 30. And let's see if the Ticats can sustain some offensive momentum.
Well, after that first quarter, you thought that they may be grabbing some, finally finding the end zone. But boy, does a win ever come out of your sails if you're Hamilton after you give up another 7 in the very next series to Henry Burris, who put together the Nick Lewis drive.
Trey Smith blown back. Printers to throw. Tony Miles the catch. Bannister closing quickly. And a 4-yard, maybe 5-yard reception by Tony Miles.
You know, the calling card for the Hamilton offense all year has been their running game. In fact, coming in, they led the league in rushing the football and had Jesse Lumsden, the leading rusher, who's not playing tonight. But 27-9 early on starts to take Charlie Taff and Marcel Belfait out of that running game.
2nd and 5. Printer steps up, and he's drilled as he crossed the line of scrimmage by his old teammate, Juwan Armour. And that will be 3rd down.
I mean, this was a team, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, that was averaging 218 yards running the ball per game. There's the leading rushers in the season coming in, and you can see the Hamilton Tiger Cats were so good. They had 2. They had Lumsden and Trey Smith right there at number 5 with only 14 carries, but a pretty nice average. Now their running game becomes something they can't go to as much because they're down in the scoreboard early, and they've only had 27 yards rushing so far.
The score is 27-9, and the Ticats are 9 for 27 rushing the ball. Juwan Armour was shaken up on the last play, getting some attention.
Now, having said that, though, Chris, you know, in the CFL, you get so many possessions, and with a half of football to be played, I don't think Charlie Taff has to completely abandon the running game.
But I know the guys before the game on the panel talked about the fact that it's a little bit east-west, this offense for Hamilton. Don't go vertical a lot. Do they not have to head downfield a little bit more in the second half?
Well, you know, they'd love to get the momentum with a big play, but you know, you have to chip away. You can't come back from 27-9 in one throw.
Armour looks okay. And set up to kick against a wind that isn't nearly as stiff as it was in the opening quarter. Marcus Howell. And he's met as he crosses the 35.
I'll tell you what, though, the way Henry Burris is playing in this first half, the Ticats' biggest concern and most important right now is the minute 21 left in the half.
Yep, there's lots of time for Burris to add to those totals that are impressive to be sure. 13 of his last 15 starts, he's been over 300 yards, 2 of 3 games this season, and on his way again. Looking better than ever. Time. Jump ball, and this one, is it intercepted? Yes, Rontarius Robinson with the interception.
They're having a discussion to see whether or not he was inbounds, and the unanimous decision there as all 3 officials indicate that Robinson comes up with a huge catch as he dives, tips it to himself, and stays inbounds somehow. Tremendous vertical, and then he pulls it off his knee. Wow, we have seen some amazing catches this year by receivers. Let's put that one right up there.
It's the best one by a defender.
First of all, how about the vertical from Rontarius Robinson? I mean, he skies for that baby. What a catch.
And then catches it off his shoe tops to give Hamilton some life with 1:15 to go. And a first down at their own 50-yard line. Printers has Miles over the middle across midfield. Brandon Smith finishes him off at the Calgary 53-yard line.
Well, 2 positives for Hamilton. They got a chance for points. Even a field goal helps, but they also keep Henry Burris on the sideline for the remainder of the half.
Trying to cut into an 18-point Stampeder lead. 2nd and 3. Trey Smith up the middle. And a hole for first down to the 45 as we're under a minute remaining in this first half.
You really have to stick to your bread and butter if you're Hamilton. I know it's tempting to be down in the scoreboard like this, on the scoreboard like this, but here again is that play. There it is. It's the read. Printer sees the hole, and so he gives. If he doesn't see that hole and he sees the defenders in that hole, he'll pull that.
Haven't seen him pull it much yet. There's a little shovel. And Trey Smith again cut down. Brandon Smith with the good tackle as Trey Smith is dropped at the 37-yard line.
Boy, Ticat fans would love to see this Casey Printers. And this was the Casey Printers that in 2004 was the outstanding player. It was that sandlot, make it up on the fly Casey Printers that can be so dangerous.
2nd and 3. Rush on, Printers steps up. He's got some room to rumble. And he's across the 30, and Dwight Anderson with a shot. And Printers took one from an old teammate when it looked like he could have just hit the deck and avoided contact.
Well, you got to give him credit. I mean, Casey Printers took the hit, tried to get an extra yard. And Dwight Anderson didn't lead with his head. He led with his shoulder and forearm, so no penalty.
So the ball at the 30 with 26 seconds to go. And the Ticats take a timeout so Printers can confer on the sidelines and get on the headset with Marcel Belfay.
This offense still evolving. They have the 1-2 combination with their running backs, usually Jesse Lumsden and Printers, but with a young receiving core, I know the idea in Hamilton is to allow the passing game to slowly develop. If you try to lean on young receivers like Scott Mitchell and Crichet Rodriguez and Chris Bauman too much early on in the season, you could turn the ball over a ton and disaster happens. So that's been the idea for the Hamilton offense starting out the season.
A couple of turnovers have cost Charlie Taft's crew 10 points in this game, but they have a 1st and 10 at the Calgary 30. And that pass caught. Miles with another catch and a 1st down at the 17. 6th catch for Tony the Tiger.
Yeah,
this first half.
This is a combination that we thought coming into the season, and I know a lot of people did, especially in Hamilton. That was a good catch.
Yes, it
was. That was a very tough catch. He made it look easy live, but this combination of Casey Printers and Tony Miles has taken a little time to develop. Remember, that combination is new to them as well.
So they've driven the ball 43 yards. They have 21 seconds left on the clock and a 1st down. Printers has time, and this is picked off. Intercepted by Juwan Armour. As they went for Miles again, there is a marker down on the field as Armour is knocked out of bounds.
Printers just waited a split second too long. Tony Miles had got in behind the first layer, and because Printers held on to it a split second too long and allowed Juwan Armour to just slide, watching his eyes to the throwing lane.
Penalty against Hamilton. So the interception by the former Tiger Cat will stand.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. Hamilton, number 67. 15-yard penalty, Calgary ball, 1st down.
Peter Diakowski called for the 2nd time in this half.
Just a timing issue for Casey Printers. If he throws it earlier, there's Armour right there, number 2. And he is just going to read the eyes of Printers. He slides first to his right. If that ball is thrown just a split second earlier, Tony Miles gets it in between the coverage because Printers holds on to it. Armour in that throwing lane.
The message from Hamilton is we can't kill our own drives, and they did it against Saskatchewan a couple of times last week. And they've done it again here in this game with 2 turnovers deep in Calgary territory.
Well, tough enough to win on the road. Not much tougher when you continue to make mistakes like that.
Tough first half, and Henry Burris will lead his team to the locker room through 30 minutes with a lead of 27-9 here at McMahon. TSN is the exclusive broadcaster of the CFL and proud home of the 2008 Grey Cup. We're at McMahon, 27-9 for the Stampeders, headed to the 3rd quarter. But first, Jermaine Franklin with Charlie Taft.
For Trey in his first few touches.
Well, it appeared that way. You know, he hadn't shown that in any game previously this season. A little nervous, I guess, but you know, this is he's got to step up and make the plays and just give ourselves a chance. You know, we need Calgary's an excellent team and their offense is performing well, but we didn't do anything to give ourselves a chance in the first half. That's what's most disappointing. But you know, as I told them in there, they got to do something for themselves now. It's about pride. The second half, we got to come out and fight. So we'll see what kind of guys we got right now.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay.
So the coach with a challenge for this second half.
You know, and that's probably the difference between this team, the Hamilton Tiger Cat version in 08, the difference between this one and last year, because they will fight back, and they have fought in the first 3 games. They battled, probably could easily be 2-1. They're not, 1-2 coming in. And I like what Charlie Taft said at the end of that interview. We'll see what kind of guys they are now, because that's when you really find out about your football team, when they face adversity, and they couldn't have faced much more in that first half.
I think a lot of people felt they turned the corner last week despite the loss. They were down 10 points early, kept fighting back, and finally caught the Rough Riders late. Saskatchewan with that dramatic last-minute win. This has been more of the old Tiger Cats for the first 30 minutes. Let's see if they can change the momentum. This will help. Good return by Trey Smith up across the 40, close to the 44. As we check the quarterback numbers through 30 minutes.
Well, Casey Printers got a little offense going late in that first half, but check out Henry Burris. 73.9% of his passes completed. Had he had the 3 drops caught, he would have been 20 for 23, completing 87%. 3 very catchable passes dropped in the first half. He's on fire.
Drops that were duly noted by Coach John Huffnagel in his interview with Jermaine Franklin. First down, Trey Smith. Oh, big contact there. As Charleston Hughes scraped down with a big hit.
Boy, that first quarter started as about as bad as it could have for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Turnovers. They were minus 18 yards after a quarter of play in net offense. You can see their first half possessions. They had the 5 punts, 1 interception, cost some points just before the half. So you've got to believe, if you're a Ticat fan, that it's going to get better, because that's the only way it can go offensively. The defense hung in there. I mean, it could be worse.
They will have to address slow starts, however. Not a first down in the first quarter, and 1 point in 4 games in the first quarter.
Yeah, that's been their worst. They've been outscored 20-1 in quarter 1. The good news is their best quarter is the 4th, where they've outscored the opponent 30-19.
2nd and 7. 6-pack of receivers for Printers. He steps up and guns downfield, looking for Perche Rodriguez, and the rookie in his CFL debut has it at the 10.
Casey Printers extending the play with pocket presence is why Rodriguez is allowed to get open. That pocket will start to collapse around Printers, and you can see that little lane. So he extends it down, steps up with his eyes down the field, and there is Perche Rodriguez in his very first game in the CFL. That one he'll remember.
Working against Brandon Browner, who a lot of teams don't test very often. A 54-yarder is the longest pass play of the season for the Hamilton Ticats.
Rodriguez can run. Good athlete, tremendous basketball player. 6'5", 208.
Man has just played for the last 3 years, a couple of years at Auburn as he came over from the basketball team. From the Tigers to the Tiger Cats, along with Trey Smith.
Yeah, Charlie Tapp told me yesterday about Rodriguez. He said, you know, he's a long, long way, and I'm not making the comparison now, but I'd love to see him develop into a Derek Armstrong type of guy, Winnipeg wide receiver. Because he's got great size. At 6'5", he can win that jump ball. Remember, as a basketball player, he knows when to time up the jump. He doesn't have to on that play because it was thrown perfectly by Printers on the run, but that showed some breakaway speed because Brandon Browner can run.
So a good sign and a good start here in the second half for Hamilton. First down, hole for Terry Colley, and what a touchdown run that is. So the Ticats on their opening possession of the second half hit pay dirt.
Challenged by their head coach at halftime to come up and play for themselves, to start to show some pride, and they do on the opening drive. Colley in the backfield, they're going to run a fake reverse. You could see, I believe it was Trey Smith coming around in the reverse. Look at the patience for Terry Colley to cut back against the flow to get into the end zone.
So the other back trying to replace the absence of Jesse Lumsden has a touchdown run. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Nissan's Make the Call. Play on cfl.nissan.ca for your chance to win a trip to the Grey Cup. 3 plays, 67 yards. In the opening 2:23 of this third quarter. Terry Colley capping it with that nifty run. And here's Summers on the return. And Demetrius Summers with a seam, tripped up as he crossed the 40-yard line.
Little misdirection for Terry Colley on this run. He gets a little help from Trey Smith. There's Colley there, and he is going to go hit into the line to the right side of the formation, and he's going to get some help on the fake from Trey Smith, who's going to come around this way. And watch how you're going to see this lane open up for him. Little cutback, and bang, there's the open lane for Colley. He can cut back. I like the patience at the end of the run, too, where he gets bumped here, but cuts back against the flow to find the end zone. Tremendous balance.
Stampeders, first possession, second half. And here's Burris getting outside, flag down. And Burris slides feet first up around the 53-yard line. Get one more look at that Hamilton touchdown by Colley.
Now let's take one more quick look. You can see here is Trey Smith right there. He lines up in that triple formation, that little bunch formation to the left side, and then he goes around on the fake. Gives a little lane for Colley. I think this play's coming back.
Calgary number 64. 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
Jeff Pilon was caught blocking Zeke Moreno in the back. Moreno jumped to try and knock that ball down, and he got pushed in the back by Jeff Pilon, and that will take that gain back for Calgary. Penalties have been a bit of an issue.
Not as many yards, but still double-digit games of penalties that irks the new head coach. So it'll be 1st and 20. Just across the 30-yard line. It's out of the backfield. The hitch to Demetrius Summers. And he's tossed down at the 38-yard line.
You heard Chris Schultz at halftime talk about the fact that Calgary probably could have a bigger lead here. Pretty good first half when you look at their possessions. They had 3 touchdowns, a couple of field goals. Those field goals turn into touchdowns, and the score really is lopsided, but Hamilton has responded. Charlie Taft said, go and play with some pride. They did that offensively in drive 1 of the second half.
Last week, Henry Burris converted on 52% of second down plays. Here's 2nd and 11. Ticats need a stop. Won't get it. Kenyon Rambo a catch up across midfield. And finally, being tackled at the Hamilton 50, but they were 1st and 20 and moved the chains.
Kenyon Rambo has run a couple of corner routes, and this time, I mean, we showed you earlier, number 85 ran the into the middle and then back to the outside. This time he's into the middle and across. So he's really got the Hamilton secondary guessing. They were playing with the extra DB there, bringing in Sandy Beveridge, and Rambo catches it right in front of him.
Second 100-yard game of the young season for Kenyon Rambo. 22 yards on that pickup. Burris back to work. Dancing, throwing, and that one almost picked off. In and out of the hands of the corner, Lawrence Gordon.
That was the first time that Henry Burris was under a little duress. A perfect game called by George Cortez, the offensive corner. You see Burris is always looking to Cortez. That's quite the brain trust over there. You have Dave Dickinson helping out George Cortez. And then, of course, they can always lean on John Huffnagel, who has a little bit of experience on the offensive side of the ball over his career, both as a player and a coach.
An impressive group and continuity among the weapons who've been around for a few years together now. And here's Copeland. That's an easy pitch and catch. Brought down by Sandy Beveridge. But another first down and another big second down conversion.
You know, defenses like to try and mix things up, and they try and disguise stuff. We've seen it in BC. We see it in Winnipeg. Not McKay Loescher here is going to line up as a defensive end and then drop. He's at the left side of your screen. Go ahead and run it, guys. See number 9. He just flashed in front. Now you're going to see him out in coverage. Henry Burris will eat them alive if they try and maintain that style of defense. He's just too big to cover a lot of area in the secondary.
First down. Summers off the right side, and he's tripped up, brought down by Terrence Patrick. Stampeders the last 2 weeks have scored a touchdown on their opening drive of the second half, and looking dangerous here again on the opening drive of week 4 in the second half.
You know, it's always good, Chris, to try and disguise things and change it up on defense, but you know, we just showed you the expertise offensively on the Calgary Stampeders sideline, and when Hamilton has tried, and Denny Crean, the former Calgary coach, tried to mix things up, Henry Burris has made him pay.
Second 4. Reynolds straight ahead to the 23, and that should be another first down for the Stamps.
Nice balance in the offense. Again, that's play calling from George Cortez to involve Joffrey Reynolds, not only in the middle, but outside running the football. We've seen a couple of those in routes by first Kenyon Rambo, then Jermaine Copeland, so he's mixing up the personnel. And when you get on a roll and in a zone like that offensively, defensively, boy,
And it is a first down as they measure. So much horsepower under the hood for George Cortez to work with.
Takes a quick look at his play sheet that will have sort of down and distance and situation. Coaches like to split those game sheets up into where you are on the field, what down it is, how far you have to go, and then there'll be a list of plays that they can choose from.
George really looks like he's sweating down there. Comfortable and everything's operating on all cylinders like this. Pitch and catch, Nick Lewis wide open, down to the 4. As Henry Burris continues to dissect the Ticat D.
And he's using everybody. You're going to see Burris look to his left. He waits, and then he look at how wide open. There is nobody. I mean, Nick Lewis underneath the coverage. Zeke Moreno, the middle linebacker, first guy to show up for the Tiger Cats. Perfect play calling and execution by this Calgary offense right now.
Only had one 100-yard game coming in. They've got 2 receivers that have hit the century mark, and now first and goal from the 3 with penalty markers down. And tangled up, another marker comes down as Copeland interfered with in the corner by Rontarius Robinson. What about the first penalty flag?
There's definitely contact made. Robinson was on the back of Jermaine Copeland in the corner of the end zone. That was one penalty.
Well, a tailor-made opening drive for Hamilton, but they needed a stop and haven't been able to solve Henry Burris.
Hamilton number 55, that penalty is declined. Forward pass interference. Hamilton number 18, the ball's placed on the 1-yard line, first down.
So Charlton Keith was offside. That didn't matter because they'll take the pass interference against Robinson.
Just on the far right-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see it show up right at the end. There it is right there. And you can see just Robinson loses his balance and falls into the back of Copeland. I don't think he meant to, but it doesn't matter. It's still a penalty.
First and goal from the 1, and the official wanting to talk to the Ticat captain. Not sure what that's about, but you can hear the officials telling that defensive line to get behind the goal line. First and goal from the 1. Second man through, Joffrey Reynolds has his second touchdown of the night.
Calgary has the answer. Great play calling and execution from Henry Burris as this offense just continues to roll along. And how about those young offensive guards up front for the Calgary Stampeders? They're giving Burris time to look at 1, 2, and sometimes 3 receivers. They're opening holes for Joffrey Reynolds. And what was a real concern for Calgary coming into the year doesn't seem to be near as much of a concern now.
3 straight games they've come out of the room to start the second half with a first possession touchdown, and that restores the lead. As it was through 30 minutes, Calgary up by 18. For every sack in tonight's game, Purolator donates the quarterback's weight in food to a local food bank. Purolator, where business is going, and hats off to the fans in Winnipeg as they had their tackle hunger game last Friday and brought in 27,000 pounds of food. Stamps with a pair of sacks in this game. Tiger Cats have 1. And DeAngelis kicks it off. Trey Smith from his 13. And Smith finds some running room. Up over the 40 and spins to the 45. After that 10-play, 70-yard touchdown drive that Joffrey Reynolds caps with his second major of the game.
Concern on the young offensive lineman, but they knew they had one guy. They had this guy right here, Jeff Pilon, the veteran, and watch how he scrapes and gets right to Zeke Moreno, the middle linebacker. The linebacker is the guy who's got to make the stop down the goal line, but you see Jeff Pilon just get his helmet under the chin of Zeke Moreno, push him back 4 or 5 yards, and Reynolds runs right in behind him.
Pilon, the senior stamp, playing in his 120th game. 9-year vet. Printers back to work. Printers in trouble. Somehow gets out of it. Flag down, and Casey back at the 20. Now throws it up for grabs, and that's picked off. No, incomplete. Calvin Bannister trying to sell an interception.
First of all, you've got to believe with Printers running around his own pocket for that long, that it was likely a holding penalty. Or was it a catch at the other end? He's got possession there. It looked like, oh, it's pretty close. It looked like the tip of the football might have hit the ground. Rob Hill, the official, right on the spot, waved it off.
Challenge flag has been thrown by John Hufnagel.
I think this is worth a second look. I mean, this is close enough. You have to survive the contact with the turf.
Stamps came in with only 1 interception. Have 1 from Juwan Armour. Do they have a second from Bannister? You get another angle on it.
But did you see how his left arm got underneath the football as he hit the ground? And the question is, did the tip of the football touch the ground before?
Calgary's challenging the ruling on the field, but the pass was incomplete.
Now the new rule is supposed to favor the receiver. Does it favor the defender who's the receiver?
Well, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter whether or not it's defensive back or a receiver. But that is definitely close enough for John Hufnagel to take a look at. One more look, and I thought the bottom end of the football, right, the tip there, might have touched the ground, but as you saw a couple of the other angles, looked like that left arm from Bannister rolls underneath it.
Kind of a la Arlen Bruce last week.
Boy, you know that Rob Hill, the head linesman there, was completely convinced. He had a great look at it from his angle. You could see him. He had
on
the great
review,
look.
the ball touched the ground. The pass is incomplete. The ruling on the field stands.
Yeah, it was so close, but it looked like the tip of that football might have just touched the ground. Again, the head linesman, Rob Hill, was right there. He waved it off immediately.
Otherwise, that would have been the second interception in the last 3 passes tossed by Casey Printers. Now it'll be second down. There was a holding call.
59. That penalty is declined. Second down.
And they declined the holding call against Jonta Woodard, so it will be 2nd and 10.
That's an interesting decision, too, from John Hufnagel. It's either 1st and 20, but you lose the field position, or 2nd and 10, and he elects to go 2nd and 10. That's also showing some confidence in his defense to get the 2 and out. This is still a 2nd and long situation for Printers.
2nd and 10.
They show blitz. Printers under pressure. Gets outside and has Matt Woodcock, who does catch it. Looked like Woodcock. No, they're calling it incomplete now. Woodcock, he wants a challenge flag. He certainly bobbled it. And this one will likely go under review.
Well, Printers, again, with his movement, extends the play, and I think you saw Woodcock just take a peek, but did he keep it off the turf? This might be the best angle right here. Back-to-back close calls, and I think
he brings that in.
Does that touch the ground, though? Does it touch? Because he didn't have control until he was right near the surface, right near the playing surface, and both hands on the outside of the football. Did the middle of the ball touch?
No, I don't understand why they're not challenging that. Flag down as Seta boots it away. And this one will go in the end zone, which again wasn't the plan. And the single point is conceded. There was a penalty marker on the play.
I believe Hamilton may have used both challenges.
Yep, he said, I've used 2 already.
And he probably just, I've used 2, I don't have a challenge. And Pat, just catch it the first time.
Yeah. Well, I think that would have stood under review.
Illegal formation, no end against Hamilton. It's a 5-yard penalty, repeat third down.
So the Tiger Cats have to kick it again, and I think Nick Seta might be glad for another shot, except now that cover team's got to run down the field a second time.
This really plays to the return team's favor. It's a tired group that has to cover again. Marcus Howell awaits.
Still a breeze at Seta's back. He boomed 3 over 70 in the first quarter. This one not as deep. And Howell will be stopped at the 23. Good downfield cover there by former Stamp Sean Manning. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Nissan's Make the Call. Play on cfl.nissan.ca for your chance to win a trip to the Grey Cup. So both teams have touchdowns in this third quarter, under 5.5 minutes remaining in the third quarter of play. An 18-point Calgary lead. Demetrius Summers takes the hit up to the 29-yard line.
I mentioned a couple of times the young offensive lineman up front, Jesse Newman and Demetrius Sumpas. You know, in that long 10-play drive to start this half, Henry Burris was only hit once in that drive, and at that time after he delivered the football, they have held up. I mean, Rob Lazio's the veteran of 11 years in the middle at center, but 2 first-round draft picks that are really foundation building blocks for this football team on the O-line.
2nd and 4. Reynolds, first down, into the secondary, cut down at the 45 by the safety. That means it's another big gain for Joffrey Reynolds.
Well, Lazio is the key block here, the veteran that I mentioned, and he is the center right in front of your screen. Watch how he opens up the hole for Joffrey Reynolds to cut back. Nice block on Terrence Patrick, the former Calgary Stampeder, and then he opens up that nice lane for Joffrey Reynolds to hit it.
Reynolds at 65, needs 85 to surpass Jesse Lumsden on the rushing list. There's that zone read, the fake to Reynolds, and a completion to Brett Ralph, who steps out at the Hamilton 48.
This is exactly the play we drew up in the first quarter to show you how effective it can be, because Charlton Keith, the defensive end for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, is stuck. He's over here to the left of your screen, and watch how Henry Burris is going to just play him. He looks with the there he is, number 55. Burris sees him pinch down on Reynolds, so what does he do? Pulls it. Tough to play defensive end.
The first down and a quick hitter. Nick Lewis has had a big night. Zeke Moreno drills him, but Lewis has got another positive first down catch at the Hamilton 41.
You know, I had a nice conversation with Henry Burris yesterday, and in that conversation, he talked about his young offensive line. He said, you know, they're going to make mistakes. They know that. We know that. But Henry Burris is so far along in his game development that he knows the individual personalities and strengths and weaknesses of his new offensive lineman already. He knows when he needs to run before it happens.
2nd and 2. And another quick hitter to Summers. Empty backfield, 2nd and 2, and another 2nd down conversion.
And that's really seeing the game, Chris, in slow motion when a quarterback knows, for instance, you know, and I know this is not a Jesse Newman issue, but I'm just hypothetical. If Newman is not good on a defensive stunt, for instance, you know, Henry Burris already knows that about him. So if he sees it defensively, he knows that he has to move out of the pocket and buy himself some time. So, you know, that's where Burris is in his game.
Already his best game of the year. And look at this hole for Joffrey Reynolds. Down to the 4-yard line. Rips off 25 more. And he's the new rushing leader in the CFL.
Boy, and Jeff Pilon right here, the veteran, another big block. He's right up that right tackle position. Watch how he opens up a nice hole for Reynolds with patience. Charlton Keith is guessing at the defensive end as to whether or not Burris is going to keep it or go to the outside with it or give it to Reynolds. And when you're guessing, you're wrong. Reynolds, huge hole.
Goes 1st and goal. At the 4. Summers. And Summers tried to push the pile. Dropped at the 2.
Boy, the offense for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, we've seen one drive of them basically. I mean, there's been a couple, but it's been all Calgary in this second half. You know, Charlie Taft challenged the entire team. It looked like their offense was responding at halftime coming out of the gate, but their defense has been reeling. Just on their heels, not sure if it's going to be Reynolds. It's going to be the quick passing game from Henry Burris. Charlie Taft wants to see someone on defense step up and make a play here.
10-play touchdown drive, their first possession. Now the 8th play of this second third-quarter drive. Will it end with another Stamp touchdown? Motion Reynolds, 3rd touchdown of the game. A big night for number 21. And this entire Calgary Stampeder offense.
So many weapons for the Calgary Stampeder. Tremendous running back, again with the great depth. Joffrey Reynolds about 7 yards back of Henry Burris. That buys him time. This time Reynolds got to the hole, but he just couldn't stop the momentum of Joffrey Reynolds.
A hat trick for Reynolds in the game. 5 touchdowns for the season now, as the Stamps hit 40 with the point after yet to come. 2 more third-quarter touchdowns on long drives as the Stamps look unstoppable. Joffrey Reynolds, a big part of that 8-play touchdown drive. 2 possessions for the Stamps in this third quarter, and this drive 87 yards for a touchdown.
Chris Schultz will tell you the Hoggies love a drive like this, where they could just fire off the ball. The ball is handed to the running back. It's a quick passing game. It ends up down the goal line where they could dig in and just reestablish the line of scrimmage. That's one that the big boys up front absolutely love.
Joffrey Reynolds running downhill here in this third quarter and on his way to his first 100-yard game. 15-yard penalty against Dominic Lewis. And so the kickoff into the end zone. And Trey Smith will concede a single point. And it's now 42-16. 58 points in the game. The average this season in CFL games just over 50, which is about a touchdown more than last year. And it's been a tough night for Casey Printers. As you can see, Chris Jones has turned up the heat on the Hamilton quarterback.
Yeah, they've had all kinds of protection issues. Printers, the plays he's made offensively have been when he has been able to scramble around and sort of make it up on the fly. behind there. There's Chris Jones, defensive coordinator, and he's throwing a lot of different looks at Casey Printers.
4 receivers wide side. Trey Smith to the 40. And he has 5.
You know, and Chris Jones has had a little bit of an advantage going into this game over the Hamilton Tiger Cats and Marcel Belfait. The Ticats had a short week and had to travel from east all the way out here to Calgary in the west. They only had 2 real practices, and they haven't had a look at Chris Jones' defense yet. This is the first game against the Stamps. They know him from Montreal in those days, but this is different personnel, so a bit of an advantage for the Stamps in this work week.
2nd and 5 on what should be the final play. Well, there is a marker down. Catch is made. Close to a first down for Chris Bauman, but again, a marker on the play.
And the big question for the Ticats coming in was, were they going to be able to bounce back on that from that emotional loss, that end of the game loss against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, where they really thought they were winning their first home game. They were in position to go 2-1.
Hamilton, number 89. 5-yard penalty. Repeat, 2nd down.
Scott Mitchell offside, so they'll march it back 5. Just by the way, on the short week, it usually evens out. Charlie Taft's team will have an advantage next week.
Yeah.
It's a short week for Edmonton. Sunday they play in Toronto, and then Thursday in Hamilton against the Tiger Cats, who should have the long week advantage next week. 2nd and 10. Tony Miles the catch, a little sidestep, and out at the 50, a first down on the final play of the 3rd quarter. Calgary Stampeders in charge through 3 quarters of play. Third quarter stats are brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
The Hamilton Tiger Cats, you know, money play has been their running game. 218 yards coming in, just 60 yards rushing. No Jesse Lumsden. That's, you know, the question was, could Trey Smith get the same type of production, different style of running back? We see the answer statistically.
Actually, they've done better than the average against Calgary, but I don't think that's much consolation. And for the 3rd time in 4 starts, Henry Burris over 300. In fact, his best game already of the season, and still a quarter left.
Well, that run defense has improved. We've seen the pressure defense from Calgary Stampeders, and if Henry Burris keeps playing like this, he is a runaway for outstanding player in this league as well. He's just over 300 yards every single game and using all of his weapons.
Ticats for the first down at their own 50. Trey Smith hit in the backfield and tossed back. Miguel Robidet, who celebrated with a sack last week in Montreal, his first visit back to Montreal. And a big play here as he shoots the gap.
Well, penetration can absolutely crush your running game, and that's been a bit of the story tonight. Calgary Stampeders D-line, it started out with Mike Labinjo. So Eddie Freeman get involved, and this time Miguel Robidet.
And Robidet, who could not find his way in the Denny Crehan 3-4 defense in Calgary, he was fired up to play against the Tiger Cats. And this one picked off. Calvin Bannister. This one is an interception. No, they're ruling him out, and he's had 2 taken away.
Well, this will be interesting because, like a receiver, if you are in the air and pushed out of bounds by the opponent, it's up to the official to decide whether or not you would have come down in bounds with the football. Well, both feet touch the ground, and that looks like a catch to me.
Jeez, nothing wrong with that. That's 2.
He's got control here and contact. Well, he wobbles it slightly, but it never touches the ground.
Never. That's just a terrific play, and the challenge flag now comes down, and I don't think they could take this one away from him.
No, I think that's a catch. I mean, he does juggle it slightly there, but his feet are still on the ground, and the ball never, ever touches the ground. He maintains possession. I think they're going to overturn this.
Only had 2 all last year, and he's came close to 2
Got it with a foot down.
In this second half.
Sorry, Chris, foot down.
Calgary's challenging the ruling on the field that the pass is incomplete.
I think they may overturn this one. He has control with his feet inbounds. It's another thing if he is doing that juggling movement and then hits the white stripe. Those challenge flags have got to work out tonight.
This one not the most critical of the season, but if the call had gone the other way, Bannister might be a contender for Defensive Player of the Week the way he's played in the second half.
I'll tell you this year, and I know it's early in the season, but this year the challenges have been very consistent, and the rulings after challenges very consistent. There's been I believe a nice improvement in the officiating, including the challenges. And one of the reasons for that is the supervising official upstairs that can now help the head official who's looking under the hood, Murray Clark. So there's an upstairs supervising official, and in the first couple of years of replay, they didn't have that. The official on the field had to make the decision based on what he saw. Now they can discuss it, and the supervising official can help him out. He makes the final decision, Murray Clark. But I think they've been very consistent this year, and challenge is here to stay.
Bannister burned last week on the one long play by Jamel Richardson. He gambled on an interception there and gave up a big play, but he has been sharp tonight, and this might have gone down in the spectacular category had the officials agreed.
He maintains possession. I don't know how they can rule that incomplete. It never touches the ground, and he's still in bounds right there.
And even with Pat Woodcock running a little interference.
After review, the defender caught the ball, maintained possession with 1 foot in bounds. If the ruling on the field is overturned, Calgary ball, first down.
So the right call after a look on video, and John Huffnagel likes the call. Bannister gets a chance to celebrate after all. So a couple of interceptions in the game for this defense that came in with just one in the first 3 weeks.
Casey Printers on that play, just trying to make something happen. He went deep to Pat Woodcock, hoping that his receiver would make a spectacular play and have to beat double coverage, but Bannister won the jump ball.
Yeah, Woodcock won a jump ball like that last week, late in the game, or a 50-yard reception to set up the go-ahead Hamilton touchdown, but not there. And Summers gets another carry, short yardage. So while we see Casey Printers, I know Hamilton fans are wondering, fourth quarter, do you give Richie Williams a chance, or does Printers need to stay in to get more reps early in the season with this offense?
Yeah, it's a great question, and you know, I would tend to let the backup go and get a few reps as well in Richie Williams, but with such a young receiving core, it becomes tougher for Charlie Taft to do that.
2nd and 9. Nick Lewis, ball in his hands again, another first down. And that play has been very effective for the Stampeders. And this Hamilton defense doesn't have any answers on 2nd down.
The only way you can really answer it is if you decide that you're going to man up this whole play. You can see there's going to be a bubble created because Joffrey Reynolds, Summers goes down, Brett Ralph, and they're all picking up blocks downfield as well. And that bubble pass is a real high percentage throw for Henry Burris. The only way you could defend against it is if you go straight man across the board and the guy who's covering Nick Lewis just attacks him. But if you do that, boy, you're leaving your guys one-on-one.
8th catch of the game for Nick Lewis. We have an injured Calgary Stampeder down, so we will step out as Demetrius Summers gets attention. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Future Shop.
Demetrius Summers had to be carried off. They're going to take a look at his knee. Got tangled up with Markeith Knowlton. Summers comes out of the backfield to make a block. Right there, he looked like his knee might have locked.
First and 10. Out of a double tight end formation. Burris now in trouble, and down he is dropped. A sack for Terrence Patrick, the former Stampeder.
Well, you know that's a big play for him, even though it won't change the score and it won't change the outcome of this game. But to have Terrence Patrick a sack against his old teammates, he'll be able to make that call later tonight and say, yeah, okay, you got us. Let's go back to that injury. Right up top there, that's Demetrius Summers. And it was either knee or ankle, and he looked like he kind of locked out when he hit Markeith Knowlton there. It looked like they may be looking at that right ankle.
Didn't get much weight on that right leg as he went off. Second down, Burris. And he just eats the football at the line of scrimmage. Doesn't want to take a hit with a 26-point lead and nobody open downfield.
You know, that you mentioned backup quarterbacks for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And you wonder at 42-16 with 11 to go, do we see Mr. Dave Dickinson get a few reps?
Or do you go with Barrick Neely, because do you risk Dave Dickinson in any game that's a 26-point lead? He probably needs some reps.
Well, I think so.
But for Dales, Trey Smith drilled by Brandon Browder, but a flag down. He didn't give 5 yards, and the gunner will get charged with a 15-yard penalty. Dave Dickinson does put the helmet on. Back at McMahon Stadium, let's rejoin Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, guys. Well, as both of you know, Scott Ackles, the president of the Calgary Stampeders, is the son of the late Bobby Ackles, who passed away just under 2 weeks ago. Now, as a tribute, the Stampeders organization decided to put Bobby's initials on every water bottle, as well as on the sleeves of every water boy that hands out those water bottles, as a memory of Bob Ackles and his humble beginnings with the BC Lions. Now, on that insignia also is the phrase, "Be the best that you can be." It's a nice touch.
Certainly is, Jermaine, and we will be in Vancouver tomorrow. The Bombers and the Lions, coverage of that game and the special memorial ceremony following that game at BC Place Stadium in honor of Bobby Ackles. BC Printers still at the controls, being chased out of bounds at the 43-yard line. Just a couple for Printers.
Yeah, and I love to see tomorrow night. I know the people of Vancouver and the province will rally around that, because it was suggested by the trainer Billy Rochelton, BC, that Bobby Ackles would love, instead of a moment of silence before that game where he will be honored in his memory, tomorrow night a moment of ovation. And they're going to have a huge crowd in BC Place. That'll be something special. It's going to be an emotional night tomorrow night.
That'll be one of the most emotional moments of the season, to be sure. Second and long, and a catch made by Mitchell at the 50, tossed down by Shannon James, but it is a Ticat first down.
Yeah, I think your theory here, Chris, on the reps that are so important for Casey Printers and his young receiving corps, because now they're just running the passing game and allowing Printers to try and get on the same page with these guys. I mean, they're all new across the board for Printers. Of course, he joined the team near the end of the season last year. He's not worked with Tony Miles before. Scott Mitchell's new. Chris Bauman's new. You know, it's a whole new experience for these guys.
Talked about learning the nuances of the players. There's a hitch screen to Tony Miles. And at midfield, he has a pickup of about 5.
I don't think Hamilton Tiger Cats should worry too much about this loss. I mean, that's their average rushing the football coming in. They're a great running team with balance in their offense. Tonight, no Jesse Lumsden, no running of the football. Trey Smith looked a little nervous early on, fumbled a couple of times, had problems with the handle. And and they just had to abandon that run game when they got behind.
Second and 4. Under pressure, Charleston Hughes can't find Printers, who looks the other way and has a completion. And again, it's Mitchell, a big target at 6'3", 232, and he has another first down.
Not to mention that coming in, the Hamilton Tiger Cats were facing a Chris Jones defense in Calgary that were leading the league against the run. So tonight was strength against strength. The only problem with it was, you look at those for the Stamps, 47 a game is outstanding. I mean, if you're under 100 per game, it's good. 47 is off the charts.
By the way, they were last against the run a year ago. There's Printers looking deep again. Downfield for Rodriguez or Mitchell. Incomplete.
Just a straight seam route for Scott Mitchell. Printers trying to take a shot. You talked about those nuances, Chris, and that's basically, how does a receiver run? How does he come out of his break? What do his shoulders look like? When does he go and take his burst? Those are all things that the quarterback has to learn when it comes to reading the body language and body English of their receivers, so he knows exactly when to let go of that ball.
Second and 10. Collarbone set back. Here comes the blitz. Printers under duress, but gets away. Downfield has a man open. And the catch is made again by Mitchell. He'll come up just short of the first down at the 35.
You know, the other thing I think Ticat fans can I guess look forward to is that this team offensively has kept battling in this game. I mean, Printers is still working the plays, getting himself more time through scrambling. And the Ticats, even though they'll lose this game fairly badly, had the short week, didn't have Jesse Lumsden, and in the East Division, it'll still be pretty tight depending on what happens.
3rd and 2. Ticats going for it. There's the zone read, and Printers throwing into the flat, incomplete. Couldn't hook up with Pat Woodcock, and that's a turnover on downs for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Just under 8 minutes left. Tonight's game story brought to you by MGD. Nothing to hide.
Offensively, you get this, and you get this as a combination. You're going to win a lot of football games. Joffrey Reynolds running the football. There's the balance. Another 300-yard game for Burris. And keep in mind, 214 net yards for the Ticat offense. Keep in mind they were minus 18 yards net after quarter one.
Dave Dickinson in at quarterback. Handing it off. Joffrey Reynolds straight ahead for 5. Dickinson back with the Stampeders. And in the preseason, it was only perfect. 5 for 5 and 93 yards. Thought he could have used a few more reps, so maybe this could get him up to speed.
Yeah, get some little game action, and Henry Burris' night is done. And what a night it was.
When all is said and done, the end of week 4, potentially, Burris could lead in passing, Rambo in receiving, and Reynolds in rushing. Dickinson, there's Copeland, a catch with Rontarius Robinson, the tackle.
Well, this team is building, the Calgary Stampeders. I mean, Jason Tucker in Edmonton makes a spectacular catch, or this is a 4-0 football team. John Hufnagel still wants to see execution, even though they've got this game well in hand, but
came less than a yard away from a first down, and the coach is a little disappointed with a 26-point lead.
Yeah, and you know, that's what he brings. He brings that striving for perfection type of attitude that he will clean up some penalties, which they still had. He wanted to clean up that turnover problem, the giveaway, takeaway category that he thought may creep up and catch him. They did that tonight.
Dales kicks it away. Trey Smith from his 16. And he is hit hard downfield. First man was Mike Labinjo. TSN's coverage of the Open Championship. The British Open continues tomorrow. Second round coverage from Royal Birkdale in Northwest England. Live coverage begins at 7 a.m. Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. Rocco mediate. Robert Allenby, Graham McDowell share the lead. One off Greg Norman. Mike Weir a good round, including an eagle, and he is just 2 off the pace. And Casey Printer's night is done, and Richie Williams comes in relief for the Tiger Cats. Came in against Calgary last year in relief and led the Cats to a 24-20 win. And he guns it downfield, and that one incomplete. Couple of receivers in the same area. Tony Miles was one of them.
And that might be his night. Looked like he had a bit of a limp as he went to the sideline. There's Casey Printer's night. This Hamilton offense, though, just got off to such a horrible start. They in the first couple of drives were fumbling the football. They got caught with a couple of sacks. Printers had no time, and they battled back a couple of drives in the second quarter, and a great drive to start the second half, but they just couldn't overcome that terrible start.
And they don't get this play off in time, and there was some confusion there. You saw Casey Printers trying to get Trey Smith off the field.
Time count violation. Hamilton number 17. 5-yard penalty. It remains second down.
But as I mentioned, there is time for the Ticats. This is a different team than last year. It's a much better team than last year, even though this record won't really say that at 1-4 after 4 weeks. But when you consider the East Division, Montreal, the best in that division at 2-1. The Bombers still haven't won a game. They play tomorrow night. Toronto with just 1 win. Still having some communication problems. They're going to take back-to-back penalties here for time count. You know, they don't get this play off either. And Richie Williams tosses the ball down in disgust. Confusion now.
Time count violation.
On the sidelines.
I'm not giving. 5-yard penalty. It remains second down.
I'm not going to give Hamilton any excuses at this point in the game, but when they lost Jesse Lumsden for this game, you mentioned right off the top, Chris, they had to make a ratio change. They have to bring Peter Diakowski in to play guard, and when they make substitutions with import players, then Canadians have to come in different positions. That could be causing them some problems.
Now they get the play off, 2nd and 20. Williams unloads, and the catch is made, and that's O'Neal Wilson with his first as a Hamilton Tiger Cat. Picked up early in the season. Charlie Taft said we saw him play 6 times when we played Winnipeg last year. He played well against us, and thought we'd get a little more veteran experience in our Canadian receiving corps.
That's a nice backup, too, for Chris Bauman. And another guy with good size in the receiving corps. Appreciate Rodriguez has made some plays tonight. That's a good sign.
Marcus Howell lost the 45 and stopped in his tracks there by Ray Mariuz. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, the Canadian how-to people. Well, it's been a tough night for the Tiger Cats, and that last offensive series will not sit well, I'm sure. As Richie Williams really doesn't get a chance to show what he can do because of a couple of time counts, and Dave Dickinson back out to sharpen up his game. And not once tonight, or in the lead up to this game, was it ever advertised as Printers versus Dickinson. I don't know. The pitch to John Cornish, the Canadian runner. You have one Canadian tailback in the game now. Cornish, the Vancouver area product, who lit it up at Kansas in his senior year to the tune of 1,457 rushing yards.
And you know what he's done too. I mean, he had the big college stats and numbers, but he didn't come in with the big ego. He's been a real contributor, John Cornish, on the special teams. Last year he had 15 special team tackles. He's on all the cover teams, and gets a chance to run the football a little bit now.
And picked up 8 on that carry, 2nd and 2. And they'll give it to him again on the pitch left side. Dragged down behind the line of scrimmage. There's Zeke Moreno.
Well, this Calgary football team is looking very strong. And not just because they caught Hamilton here on a short week and a travel schedule and no Jesse Lumsden. I mean, you look at their coaching staff that they have assembled with John Huffnagel's experience coming back to the Canadian Football League, his coordinators in Chris Jones, George Cortez, with Dave Dickinson as another set of eyes that they are all so familiar with each other. I mean, this team is a top team in the league.
Burke-Dales unloads, and this one will reach the end zone. And Trey Smith concedes a single point, giving Calgary 43 on the night with just under 4 minutes to go.
By the way, between these two teams, the largest margin of victory came at 38 points, October 4th, 2002. 43-5 home win here at McMahon. So not quite that tonight, but
No yards. Calgary number 71. That penalty's declined. Single point scores.
So it is 43-16. LaMarcus Rowell was encroaching on that no yards area, but the penalty declined. Richie Williams will get to start at the 35 and see if his second series is a little more productive than the first. A couple of game starts last year for Williams. Impressed a lot of people with his play, and here's the give inside, and Trey Smith with a good run.
Across the Hamilton 40-yard line.
Smith had the 75-yard touchdown in week 1 when the game got away from the Ticats against Montreal.
yeah, that really padded his stats. Is there a hotter, I got a question for you, partner. Is there a hotter quarterback in the Canadian Football League than Henry Burris?
No, and you know, this is the way he ended last year's regular season.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned early on his 13 of his last 15 over 300. This was his best performance passing tonight. He hasn't been in the fourth quarter.
Jed Piercy straight ahead for a first down. I was starting to look up the last 400-yard games for Henry. He had one last year against Winnipeg. But again, he doesn't play the last 15 minutes to get there tonight. We have the 3-minute warning given to the benches. Time now for the TSN turning point.
Go to the third quarter. Hamilton had scored in their first possession. The Calgary Stampeders started first and 20. Nick Lewis gets a big first down to keep the drive alive and set up one of Joffrey Reynolds' 3 touchdowns. And the Calgary Stampeders did not look back after that.
They were within 11. The TSN turning point brought to you by the 2008 GMC Sierra professional grade. Richie Williams does some running all the way to the Calgary 45-yard line.
There's a lot of Richie Williams fans in the Canadian Football League. And I'm talking about players. I'm talking about players that talk very highly about the limited reps that Richie Williams has had. I talk to defenders all the time that say he is going to be a quarterback that once he gets a chance to get a team and gets a chance to get his reps.
You do hear that around the league a lot.
Yeah.
And he gets a chance. Makes some noise. Trey Smith, and there's that zone read going nowhere. Short gain for, if at all, for Trey Smith.
You know what he has? He's got the great size too. I mean, he's a 6'2", 200-pound player who can move. A good, strong, live arm. Has been around long enough now in 3 years to understand the game and understand the nuances of the Canadian Football League. So he has got potential.
At the 45, 2nd and 10. And he Shows you his arm, a completion. Scott Mitchell has a first down.
And I am not trying to create a quarterback controversy in another city.
Even though we seem to work on one in every game.
No.
Not yet.
This is Casey Printer's team, and while this offense got off to a horrible start, it wasn't necessarily Printer's fault. A couple of low snaps caused him problems. Trey Smith was having problems handling the ball. They got into a deep hole. It was tough to get out of. And Printers has not played bad in his first 4 starts.
First down, Williams. And that one through the hands of Pat Woodcock. Incomplete. And a reminder that immediately following our game, Brian Mudrick and Dan O'Toole will bring you up to date. Everything that's happened in sports today. Sports Center coming up following the game. We're 92 seconds away.
You know, I'd even take it a little bit further. I don't say that, you know, I just mentioned Casey Printers has not played badly in the first 4 games. In fact, I would take it further. I think he's played quite well. His completion percentage was over 70 in the first 2.
There's the pressure on Williams, who gets away and opens up on that side. Richie Williams running for another first down. He'll step up at the 16. The big blemish, though, that people are going to talk about, Casey Printers has played 6 consecutive games for the Ticats without a touchdown pass, 0 for 4 this year.
I don't know that that's a big deal. This is a run-first team. And you mentioned their red zone productivity in the first 3 games. They were 6 of 8 scoring touchdowns. So if you can score a touchdown in the red zone by handing it off, you'd much rather do that. It's a safer play. I don't know that a touchdown pass is that big a deal, but they have to start winning games.
First and 10. Pass across the middle. O'Neal Wilson. The catch. They rule it a catch, short gain. But we have seen tonight Calgary with a great run defense, and you don't have that extra dimension. I'm trying to create that controversy you're avoiding, but
no, this is the starting quarterback in Hamilton. It's Casey Printers,
and I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
I just think they've got to be a little more dangerous through the air to take it to the next level. Let's see what Williams does in the air, looking to the end zone, and that one is picked off. Brandon Browner will pose without the helmet. 3rd interception of the game for the Stamps. Again, a Calgary defense that had 1 coming in.
Richie Williams tried to strong-arm that into a small space, and Brandon Browner has great reach. He has real long arms, 6'3", but he has long arms. And one of the reasons that helps him as he up in the corner there is that he doesn't have to close that extra half step. He can reach and pull the ball away with that long reach. And you can see how he just goes out there with his hat on, rips that ball down. Shutdown corner on the outside. And you're right, teams don't go after Brandon Browner very often.
Just 1 interception last year because he doesn't get a lot of work, and he's celebrating his first this year as Dickinson hands it off, and John Cornish getting a little workload here late in the game.
You know, you got to give full credit to the coaching staff here in Calgary, offensive and defensive coaching staff. Just a tremendous game plan. You know, when John Huffnagel knows he has the young interior offensive line, his play calling can really help them establish themselves early and get some confidence. You know those quick passes to Nick Lewis we saw, those quick flare passes? Those are plays that can help an O-line. You don't have to sustain a block for too long. Little things like that give them confidence. They move along. Burris is playing great. This team could get on a real roll.
2nd and 8. Once again, they stay on the ground, and here's Cornish looking for a seam and finds it. John Cornish away to the races. And caught from behind by Chris Thompson, but Cornish has his biggest run in the Canadian Football League.
You know, he didn't get the ball much last year. His first run against Edmonton was on Labor Day. That went for 12 yards. He had a 30-yarder called back. He seems like whenever he gets a chance to get the football out of the backfield, he makes a big play.
Just run for 48. A guy who bided his time at Kansas until his final year, and then he lit it up, and he came in with the same attitude, though. Sell everybody on special teams. I'll bide my time, but he thinks he can be a Jesse Lumsden. Dave Dickinson putting down a knee with less than a half minute to go. You mentioned Henry Burris. Have we seen him better? And, you know, yesterday he said, I don't think we're clicking on offense yet. You think they're clicking now?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of clicks. There was a lot of clicking tonight. He just seems so comfortable. And, you know, when you can come to the sideline, you think about the meetings. When they're sitting in there, George Cortez, Huffnagel, Dave Dickinson, Henry Burris. A lot of experience in that meeting room.
Well, they left little doubt today as Dave Dickinson winds it right down the final 43-16. Charlie Taft's squad overwhelmed here tonight at McMahon Stadium. John Huffnagel's Calgary Stampeders look good on both sides of the football, and they move to 3-1 in the West. Charlie Taft's crew is now 1-3. Couple of touchdowns for Nick Lewis, 3 for Joffrey Reynolds. And again, the final score, 43-16. That's the story from McMahon Stadium in Calgary. A reminder that SportsCenter is coming up next.